What's going on? We've been at this all night long. We've been at this all night long talking about this man, Tommy Brady. Will he retire? Will he come back? Did he retire? Did he decide to retire and something got leaked way too early? Or has this man not come to a decision yet? People are fake news reporting left and right. And this thing all started when Adam Schefter dropped the bomb on us earlier in the day, saying that let me drop the original tweet from Adam Schefter and see what you guys think of that. If I can pull this up in time, Shefty dropped. Let's see if I can find it. Dropped the retirement news. Everybody was reporting on it. This wasn't something that I think a lot of people dropped the ball on. I think it initiated from a couple bad reports, right? And then people ran with it. Like even someone like me. I'm going to run with what Adam Schefter is reporting. I can't, unfortunately, go out and say every time news breaks from Adam Schefter or somebody else that has a high profile reach beyond anything that any of us have in the fantasy football and NFL news world. When they have this kind of reach and they say Tom Brady is retiring, you run with it. You run with it because Adam Schefter's telling you that this is news that he has. You don't say, according to Adam Schefter, but I'm going to go confirm it later. With who? With who? Adam Schefter is about as high as you can get. And let's put a little respect on his name, and then let's also grill him a little bit in the same almost same sentence here. He's still more connected than anybody else in the NFL news world. Okay, let's put a little respect on his name and say that he can be wrong here and there. That's not a problem. I think we're noticing a pattern with Adam Schefter, though, which is kind of where I think I have my concern, because he's trying to do this opinionated stuff. He used to be just all business, strictly business. Adam Schefter was in, he was out, he had the news, he was a hardcore fact reporter essentially. And then lately he's been trying to dabble. He's just dabbling in opinion pieces. He's dabbling in what he thinks. He's collecting information and then releasing it on draft day, like Aaron Rodgers potentially getting traded and that debacle that happened on draft day. And Adam Schefter said, well, it's accumulation of stuff that I pulled together. I decided to release it on draft day. He's creating something out of nothing, essentially a bunch of rumors and a bunch of things he's heard, and then drops it as if there was news breaking on it. I don't know if people remember on draft day, what he did on draft day with Aaron Rodgers, that whole situation, that was crazy. And nobody really talked about it too much after it happened. They did a little bit. He took a lot of heat and it all kind of went away. It's like, does anybody remember what kind of mess he created on draft day? Because as people asked him and probed him about it, like, hey, Shefty, where did this come from? What's going? He's like, basically, this is my idea of what's probably going to happen or what could happen. It was crazy. All the drama that unfolded about Aaron Rodgers being traded on draft day had Kyle Shanahan picking up the phone and actually calling the Green Bay Packers and saying, hey, is A-Rod available? And the Packer like, no. And so Shanny hung up the phone, drafted Trey Lance. That's a true story. That's from Shanahan's own mouth. Shefty's created these little things for himself. So while I want to give Shefty his flowers and say Adam Schefter is still the most connected player or news reporter in the fantasy and NFL space, he really is. He still is. Doesn't matter how much he's messed up. He's still the most connected piece of news generating person in the news world by far. He has the most connections. He breaks the most news. He's on the money more often than not. Think about it like somebody that's at bat, 10,000 times and they strike out 3-4 times. Those strikeouts seem big when they happen. And this is me defending Shefty here, but then I'll go ahead and again not attack him. I'll go again and hit him a little bit harder and tell you how I feel he's messing up. But Shefty hits way more than he misses. Okay, so let's give him credit there. Let's start with that. Nobody's breaking news like him constantly. Nobody has connections like him. He's gonna miss. It's gonna happen. But it feels like these are avoidable misses. This isn't like information that he got wrong or somebody gave him bad info. This is like him going out on a limb at times, and then you wonder, in some cases where he gets the information. I'm not too sure of the origin of his original information, so I can't speak too deeply to that, but I can say with that Aaron Rodgers situation, this smells a little bit like that he's trying to get a jump on something and add some of his like opinion and interpretation to it. So Shefty, I don't know what to say at this point. Shefty dropped this. This is from a statement of Tom Brady's agent. Said, I don't understand the advanced speculation about Tom's future without getting into accuracy or inaccuracy of what's being reported. Tom will be the only person to express his plans with complete accuracy. He knows the realities of the football business and planning calendar as well as anybody, so that should be soon. So Tom's made it very clear he's not going to wait till free agency. He's going to do something very, very soon. But I bet Tom's furious. I bet Tom was not 100. I bet Tom was leaning a certain direction. I bet somebody in Tom's camp truly released info. It bled out of the inner circles, and somebody got a hold of it. Somebody wanted to get clout by it. Somebody wanted to show they had pull. I know Tom Brady. Whatever. I don't know how it leaked. I really don't know the inner workings of what had happened and how it unfolded. So I'm merely guessing at that point. Just want to make that clear. But things leak, and my guess is there's a lot of truth to it. And there's some, if you play telephone with anybody where you whisper in someone's ear, I whisper in Terry's ear. Terry whispers in Sid's ear. Sid whispers in Senior Hyphy's ear, into Matt's, and then into, and then by the time it comes back around, I could have said something like, CeeDee Lamb is going to have a monster 2022 bounce back campaign. And by the time it gets around the circle, I have the last person whispering the original, we think, sentence in my ear. And what do you think that sounds like? It's going to sound something like, your lamb chop was overcooked last night. Go ask your mother for some more lettuce. And you're like, what on earth are you talking about? And that's the way information gets passed along. It gets butchered. So if Tom Brady may have said, hey, I'm probably hanging it up, this is what I'm debating on, then the debating on part gets left out, and before you know it, five hands down, 5 degrees downstream, this thing is Tom Brady stepping away. So I believe there's truth to it. I think he's probably leaning way in favor of retiring, or he was, based on his comments on the podcast and how he's been talking about it lately. But does that mean that it would stick? I say no. I think he's leaning that way, or he was. He's a he's a competitive guy. Okay, this might actually have him wanting Ziggy, studio on. I'm gonna kick the lights on. Ziggy, studio on. He's one of the worst. He's one of the absolute worst. Ziggy's computer was so much better than Ziggy. Ziggy barely listens. He barely complies. Ziggy, shut up. He's horrible. Ziggy, no. Ziggy, is Tom Brady retiring?
On January 29, 2022, ESPN reported that NFL quarterback Tom Brady would retire after 22 seasons at the age of 44. Brady, his agent, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have yet to confirm or deny the report.
Whoa. Ziggy, thanks, man.
Anytime.
Ziggy was on point on that one. I gotta say. Like, that was pretty good reporting right there, Ziggy. Ziggy reported the fact that Tom Brady was reported to be retiring, and then he came back with a rebuttal like this. That's amazing.
Anytime.
Yeah. Okay, Ziggy, calm down. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that.
Sorry, I'm not sure about
God. Ziggy, it's one thing to get excited. It's another thing to start pumping yourself up, bro. Ziggy, you know what I'm saying?
I pronounced that one, but I'm always working on how I say things, and I might not have it right.
That's correct.
Here's something I found on the web. According to theminforum.co.uk.
Ziggy, no. Ziggy, who's the fantasy football show?
This might answer your question. According to Wikipedia, Fantasy Football League is a British television comedy...
Ziggy, no. Ziggy, who is Smitty Fantasy Football?
Here's something I found on the web. According to NikeTalk.com, he's a top 20 to 25 fantasy PPR producer.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, sure did. Sure did, Ziggy. This guy's a nutcase, man. I hired him without even background checking. You know what I'm saying? Ziggy, have you ever committed a felony? Ziggy, have you ever committed a felony?
Thanks for telling me.
Ziggy, go to sleep. So anyway, where was I? Oh, telephone tag, all that stuff. So my thinking is this: Tom Brady comes out of the wild card weekend, and I believe interviewed before the divisional game. I don't think this was an interview like weeks and weeks before. It could have been. I don't know for sure, but literally like during the divisional, I think it was halftime or before or whatever. Interviewed Tom Brady, and Tom Brady says, I feel great. I've never felt better. And by the way, Smitty did an oopsie. I was trying to delete a scheduled live stream, and I deleted my earlier video where I announced Tom Brady's retirement. And I first of all want to say that so people don't think I tried to delete that video. Like, oh, I felt bad about reporting that. I don't feel bad at all about reporting that. Everybody was reporting it. Horrible mistake on my part. Thousands of views on that video by the time I deleted it. And it was caching on my side and showing 0 views. And so I thought that was my scheduled one that I didn't, because if I schedule it and then I schedule another one and I rename it, I don't use I sometimes have drafts of scheduled videos. I refresh the page, it says 0. I'm like, okay, this is the old one. I deleted it. It's on Twitter. It should be on LinkedIn. So it's not like gone, but it's not on YouTube, and it pisses me off because it looks like I'm deleting the video because I'm ashamed of reporting on it. I'm not at all. This is Schefter. This is a bunch of other people. I'm not the source of a lot of this breaking news. Not to mention, on that video, there was so much that I said that I felt like was super on point. Like, I don't know if I can find the video. I'd love to play the beginning of it if you guys are willing to sit through just the very, very, very beginning of it. Because I want to get it back. I want to get that content back on YouTube. I don't want to post the video again because it's a video of me saying Tom Brady is retiring, so I can't post it again. You know what I mean? Like if it was something that didn't get outdated immediately, I would just repost it again because I have the video, but I can't put it up. I can't put it up because it's going to look like I'm announcing he's retiring. Here's the clip though, because this is in the middle of the show. I won't play a lot of it, but let me play a real small piece of it just to get it up here. And then, and that way, you know, I have it back. Let's see. This was at, what time was this at? Was this at 1 p.m.? Well, we have breaking news to report here. Tom Brady is stepping away from football, which is halfway shocking, halfway not. We kind of felt like this was coming the last day or two, really, I guess, week. But prior to that, weeks ago, before his last game, before this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team lost in the divisional round against I mean, this is shocking in that we thought coming out of the first part of the playoffs when he was released his statements about, hey, he's never felt better, he's feeling great, and he can't imagine stepping away from the game at this high level. Like, he's playing at a high level, and he's playing at a high level, and those statements indicated he wasn't even thinking about retirement, and a lot of the reports have suggested that there was no hint of it. And we had Danny Woodhead on the Quad Box show. If you guys aren't following that show, definitely do so. It's youtube.com/the Quad Box. It's a new show, a new podcast that we started, the Instagram guys and your boy Smitty. And we had Danny Woodhead on, and Danny Woodhead said that he didn't think he'd retire, but this is the first time he's had pause and thought maybe Tom was really contemplating it. But coming off that divisional playoff loss, I mean, Tom Brady was essentially, it looked like not broken, but like down on maybe the loss, down on the state of affairs. Maybe they're in Tampa. I don't know. Maybe he's got some kind of injury he's battling that he's not talking about. Who knows? Maybe he's perfectly fine health-wise, and he just he got rattled in terms of life and spending time with his family and what's important to him, at this stage in his career. And I don't like when people say it's just football. People realize there's more than just football. Like, every single one of them, you never know. You never know. He's feeling very emotional right now. I'm not saying he's coming back. I'm not trying to stir the pot and create rumors or anything like that, but I think we need to really understand that players go through this from time to time, especially ones at his level, players that, like Jordan retired, came back. So I didn't want to play that whole thing. I just want to play a little bit because I think there's a lot of good things that we talked about on that live stream. So it kind of made me, I was really upset when I deleted it. I was really upset when I deleted that video. I didn't mean to. It's on Twitter. It's not going away on Twitter. It's on LinkedIn, so it's not like it's gone. It's just not on YouTube, and there's thousands of views by the time I deleted it. There's a lot of comments, a lot of amazing comments from you guys. A lot of our exploratory, like, oh my God, he didn't retire. Smitty, did you know he didn't retire? And I'm like, yeah, I already went live again. Go check out the live stream. So it was great content, and it was good. So mad I deleted it. You can't undo it either. So anyway, that's gone. That's gone. But I wanted to play a little bit of it because I have the actual video. I just don't want to upload it now because it's out of date. Like, with what I do, things are out of date like that. Like, literally, I could go to bed for an hour, wake up, and if I was to repost the video I did an hour before, something would be different and it would look outdated. Like, that's the nature of what I do, which is cool. It's really cool in one way because everything's, like, changing in my world, But it also is kind of a bad thing in some ways because from a content producer standpoint like me, you could create something one day, and if you don't post it right away, like some content creators, they'll record something like 2 weeks ago, they'll edit it and post it, or I'll do an interview, and I'll be like, what's up, talking with people, chopping it up, and then I get off the interview. I'm like, when's this gonna air? I'll try and push it out for you, and they're like, we should have it back from our editor in like 3.5 weeks. I'm like, bro, everything we talked about is gonna be dumb and outdated at that point. So I put up stuff right away. Like, when I create something, it goes up, or I schedule it for that coming morning if it's really late at night. So I can't post that video, but there were some good clips there. Like, what I said there, I think was kind of on point, that like, you never know. And if he's wanting to retire, he is such a competitive man. This Tom Brady, this Thomas Brady is such a competitive man that this might push him in the direction of coming back. You can't tell Tom Brady what to do. He's probably reading all this crap, absorbing it, so frustrated. You're going to tell people I'm going to retire on your terms. I'm going to come back on my terms. Like, he is such a competitive man. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if he was 50. Like, it's not going to make him go from like 90% retiring to 10% coming back to like flip. But if he's like 50-50 and this is irking him, and he's getting ramped up, he's getting pumped up, his blood pressure is high, and he realizes he can't sit still. Like, he can't read stuff all day, retire and look at Twitter and ignore. He's not going to ignore it. He's going to watch football. Tom Brady can't watch another human being go out there and command an offense. It would frustrate him. He said it before. He's kind of arrogant, but in a way that I like. Like I've talked about before, and this sounds arrogant coming from me in a way, but you got to be arrogant when you're like in a way. You got to be. It's like overly confident when you're in a position of like commanding something. Okay. Like, I'm commanding the show. Some people think I'm a little arrogant, like when I say a prediction or if I come down on this prediction, right? You got to have a little bit of that, like, confidence that comes off as arrogance. It's just gonna, like, I don't think I'm an arrogant person, but I know that when you're commanding something, when you're trying to organize and collect people in one area to accomplish something or to create content and distribute it to every one of my followers. Like, you give off a whiff of being arrogant sometimes because you're trying to tell people what you think is going to happen, what you think, how to interpret this. So you come off as arrogant. And so, like, part of me, that's probably why I gravitate toward quarterbacks and the arrogance of a quarterback is because, like, I kind of find myself feeling very much like that in the sense that you're trying to control and command something. You're trying to organize and corral people together in a huddle like we are here and tell everybody where we're going. We're running this play. We're going to take this YouTube channel and we're going to turn it into the best YouTube channel in the world. And you come off as arrogant to some people. Some people just don't like it. And you got to be confident when you deliver something. You can't come on here and be an unconfident, not confident person and deliver content and try and help people win their championships. You have to have a little bit of an edge to you. That's why I think I gravitate toward the personalities of quarterbacks, because I feel very much I understand what they're going through. Tom Brady's a somewhat of an arrogant guy. He's got to be. Joe Burrow, somewhat of an arrogant guy. He's got to be. Aaron Rodgers, arrogant in a way. He's got to be. You know, like Daniel Jones doesn't feel very arrogant. And I don't trust him commanding an offense. I just don't. You know, do I want Herbert to be a little bit more assertive? I do. I want my Herbert to be a little arrogant. I want my Herbert to be a little bit more overpowering and commanding and scary. And he needs to go into that huddle. And that's in the nature of it. Tom Brady is going to come off as arrogant. And when they ask him questions, and why I've been circling around this, they asked Tom Brady, what do you think of this guy? He's been asked all kinds of questions in his career. He's been playing for 22 years. So, like, people will say, hey, Tom, this came out on the Niners situation. When he found out that Kyle Shanahan said that he thought that Tom Brady was only marginally better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's why they didn't want, because Tom wanted to go to the 49ers, but instead of the Bucs, Tom wanted to go to the San Francisco 49ers, which makes, I'm sure, every Niner sick to their stomach. But to know that Kyle Shanahan squashed that's one big reason I guess I have a beef with Shanahan. He's a great play caller, I admit, great play caller, but he's bad with personnel sometimes. Not always. A lot of times it is quarterback related, but he does botch the quarterback personnel decisions all the time. All the time. And let's not beat around the bush. Jimmy G is, as well as he's doing right now in his current role with the supporting cast that he has, the way he can command that specific 49er team and have enough support to carry him when he's not at his best, he's done a very nice job. He's been on point. He's done great. Okay, so he's done a lot with a little. In terms of little, I mean his talent. Like, he's not a ultra talented guy. He's not a top 10 to top 12 quarterback in the NFL. He's just not. And so when Tom Brady heard that Shanahan made those comments that Jimmy Garoppolo is only marginally less talented as Tom Brady took offense to it. Tom Brady was vocal about it. And Tom Brady started swearing and said, that effing guy, like, it pissed him off. And that was arrogant, according to everybody. Tom Brady doesn't like when people talk bad about him. Tom Brady doesn't like watching other people play mediocre. I don't believe in the end Tom Brady's going to be able to walk away from a game that he said weeks prior he couldn't imagine himself walking away from. Weeks prior that his skill is just too high. He's playing on too high of a level. He's playing as good as he's ever played. Danny Woodhead came on the show and talked about it, saying that Aaron Rodgers' arm is stronger now than it was when he was a rookie. And he's gotten stronger, he's gotten smarter, and he's just taking care of his body so well that he can go out and play at the same level he used to play, if not better. Tom knows this. Tom knows this. He knows how he's playing physically. He's got an offense that can march down the field on anybody. They have a good defense. They have the ability to be a top 5 or 6 team in the NFL in 2022. It's going to be really hard for Tom, who went from I can't imagine stepping away. This was weeks ago he said this. I can't imagine stepping away to having a very brutal loss, and then Tom Brady getting down about it for whatever reason, starting to talk about family, which I admire. Okay, I admire, but if Tom Brady is who I know he is, that's only going to hold him over for so long. Tom knows this. If Tom's talent was dropping off, I really truly believe Tom would say to himself, my legacy's important. The talent's dropping off. Now is a great time to step aside and go take care of the family and be a family man and go that direction. With the talent not dropping off, Tom Brady's going to be in a situation where in the end, he's going to say to himself, I don't want to resent my life. He has 1 to 3 more years left at an elite level. Let's call it 1.5 to 2. Okay. And I think Tom Brady's a smart enough individual that if he felt things slipping away, which maybe he is and he's not telling anybody, but he said weeks prior he wasn't. And that could have been a ploy, could have been a defense mechanism to walk into the playoffs and not have anybody doubting him. I don't think so, though. I think Tom Brady truly believed multiple weeks ago that the talent level has not dropped off and he can go play for 2 or 3 more years. I truly believe that he said those statements with accuracy and they weren't lies or fabricated or exaggerated. One loss does not take all that away. And for whatever reason he's in a place where it is, I can tell you right now, it's not going to stick. The memory, the muscle memory of these feelings and emotions he has, it's not going to hold. It's going to snap back to where he was 3 weeks ago when he basically said he's not even contemplating retirement in his mind. He could not imagine stepping away. I don't think his current feelings stick. I think he comes back. Even if he announces his retirement, let's say he says, okay, that was what I was going to say, but I wanted to announce it my way, which I think he would just come out and do it at this point. I think he's not coming out and announcing it because he literally still has a certain percentage of, even if it's low, like 20%, that does not want to retire. He doesn't want to, who wants to resent all of the people around you that are trying to get you to do something that you might have 1 or 2 years left to do that you've already done for 22 years? What's 1 more year or 1.5 or 2 more years going to do when this man could potentially live in regret? And I know everybody wants him to walk away on top. That's a selfish desire for a fan to be like, walk away on top, get out and do it. But it's harder than it sounds to do because when is that top? No one can see the drop off coming. It just happens. And if you're midway through a season, what are you going to do? Step away? No, you're going to finish out the year badly, tarnish your reputation in your mind or in some people's minds. I don't really think it tarnishes it too much in my mind. Barry Sanders, answer this honestly. Do you feel like Emmitt Smith ruined his legacy by playing into his the years where he's mediocre? He played with the Cardinals. We get all the great players after they've washed up. Not that Kurt Warner was in his prime. Kurt Warner was in his prime. Hopkins was pretty much in his prime, and we'll see what he has left when he joined. But we got Adrian Peterson not in his prime. We got Emmitt Smith not in his prime. We've literally brought in a lot of the big gunners in the NFL that fall off. Does anybody truly believe that Emmitt Smith is tarnished his reputation versus Barry Sanders? Barry Sanders walked away multiple years too early. Like, he walked away not on top where he's leveled out and you don't know when he's going to fall. Barry Sanders walked away while he's still going up. So Barry walks away. I don't think it helped his reputation to walk away on top. All we're left doing is saying Barry could have been better. Barry could have been even better. And he didn't explore that. And so now we're left wanting more. I'm still waiting for Barry Sanders to come back. Part of me, I don't know if a lot of you watch Barry. I'm a little older than probably the average audience member because I played fantasy football for over 25 years. I've been a professional analyst for 20 years now. And probably 28 years I've played. I forget how many exact years. No, 25 years. 25 years. 25 years, analyst for 20. And I'm still waiting for Barry to return. I'm still waiting for Barry Sanders to return because he left way too early. I would rather have Tom Brady go one more year, get the most out of it, potentially maybe play another, and then, start dropping off, than to have him walk away when we don't know how many more years he could have played. And I think that's ultimately what an athlete thinks versus what people think they think. They don't want to walk away. They don't want to walk away. It is very hard to walk away. He's done this for how long? That'd be like, think about it from, and I don't want to use like an analyst perspective because we're not athletes, we're not, I don't want to compare. I don't want people to say you're comparing yourself to an athlete or Tom Brady or you're comparing a football player to a military person. I'm not doing that. So up front, please relax. But when you think about like a person that works overseas, and let's not even say combat, because I don't want to compare a combat person to an NFL player, because then people get all upset and they think that's disrespectful. Let's talk about like a mechanic or somebody that's doing something on aircraft carriers or something, whatever. And they're deployed and they go away, or better yet, deadliest catch, people that go out to the ocean and risk their lives in the ocean. Let's use that example. Deadliest catch. They go out, they're away from the family, they're doing this, they're doing that, and they come back. And they're missed, and they miss out on a lot, but that's what they do. And imagine retiring out of that too early. You come home and you twiddle your thumbs, and you're going to go senile. You're going to go insane. You're going to be full of resentment because you were pulled away from something that you did enjoy doing, and it's the only thing you knew. And everybody thinks it's so easy to just pluck somebody out of that kind of lifestyle, put them into okay, you're just going to sit at home, or you're going to do projects around the house. Now, Tom Brady has businesses he can run, okay? But if anybody thinks that taking himself out of this lifestyle and dropping him into a world where he no longer has the obligations that he thinks he doesn't love, he's gonna real quickly realize he loves camp, he loves the traveling, he loves being with his team, and he's gonna miss it. That's what drives players to return from these early retirement calls that they make for themselves. Jordan did it. Gronk came back. There's a lot of other examples, but I'm just saying, like, recent ones we can think of. Gronk, retired, gets pulled back. Tom Brady pulled him back. We'll see what happens. So let me hit some of the questions and comments. Smitty, what's good? Been a minute. Fantasy season ended rough, but you're back. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you getting back into it. In my opinion, Jimmy's win-loss record is inflated. The whole football, drives me nuts, but whatever it takes to get a W. On the quad box especially, I'm going to keep continuing to take a little heat because when I'm asked a blunt, honest question, I don't hold back. I don't lie about it. I try and give especially on the quad box show, I try and give my honest feedback. And the honest feedback is that Jimmy G is not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. And we even talked about this Jeff Garcia stuff, which was pretty controversial on the Quad Box show. If you missed it, go check out that clip. I put a clip up of it, and then there's the whole hour show as well. But I put I guess I got a 5-minute or 6-minute clip or something. Pretty controversial. So like talking about that Mina Kimes situation and Jeff Garcia, who I agree, Jeff Garcia, seems irate and a little bit off his rocker response wise and how irritated he is. But there was a lot of talk about like his comments, and she ripped on Jimmy G, which I agree that Jimmy G's not, he's a problem. He's a good quarterback. He plays in the National Football League. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. But he tore apart Kimes because she ripped on Garoppolo, and he said, "You've never thrown a football. You've never done this. You've never done that." He didn't necessarily attack a gender or her gender, but he was irate about it. There have been other people that have said things about it that were male and weren't female. So a lot of people tried to draw conclusions and dot I's and connect dots. And the bottom line is, I think Garcia got attacked for something that no one can really prove what his meaning was. And I think a lot of people draw conclusions about that situation. And I feel like we live in a world now where you can't say anything edgy at all. Like you have no ability to speak your mind anymore about anything. You got to be so careful and walk on eggshells, because if you say something about somebody, you got to take into account this and take into account that. And if you believe somebody to have ill intentions, that's one thing, and you can argue that point. But I think it's crazy, the world we live in. And I agree with everything Kimes said about Jimmy G. I just disagree with the backlash to the degree people brought it against Jeff Garcia, because Jeff Garcia didn't exactly say anything that you can 100% pinpoint to being like a sexist comment. It was just kind of like, okay, he went off on a reporter. She was female. She did say that Jimmy G, was bad. I believe what she said was on point in a lot of ways. Not all of it, but the way she said it, Jimmy G he's not the answer, and he can be the problem. The thing about this Niner team is Debo, defense, Mitchell, Shanahan's play calling, not necessarily Shanahan's personnel decision makings. I think that gets them in a hole, but the team gets them out of a hole. This team finds a way to win. Debo Samuel puts this team on his back and wins football games single-handedly. Yeah, I just don't like where we're at right now in society. I try not to get political, and I'm not necessarily trying to take a stance on any one specific thing too. I'm being careful how I talk about it. I just feel like we're in a place now where, like, who cares if a Jeff Garcia says something rude to a reporter? Like, let's live in a world where that can happen. Like, if we don't like Jeff Garcia's take, let's rip on Jeff Garcia. Let's not cancel him. Let's rip on him if you feel like you want to. I don't. I don't think what he said can be defined the way people are defining it. And in fact, and I know this sounds really controversial, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people that say something negative about this, like Smitty or blah, blah, blah. It's fine. Like, this is my opinion, and I agree. No female reporter should be made to feel lesser. No female on any level, whether it's a referee, a coach, a reporter, a fan, anybody. I'm a father of 2 girls. I'm in a house full of girls. Like, I 100% believe in equality, and I want my girls to become president and dominate. But I also don't want them to grow up thinking they have the ability to call out this and call out that and use it as an excuse when somebody comes at them. And I kind of feel like it's more insensitive to assume that she needed defending, and for everybody to start defining everything a certain way. I feel like, and I've heard it from a lot of female people on this, that like to do what everybody did made her feel worse than if she maybe thought that's what Garcia's intentions were, to isolate her because she was I don't think Garcia's intentions were to do that. I think Garcia's intentions were, you're a reporter, you're talking about something that you don't know anything about because you've never played for quarterback or as a QB. I've never played at the NFL level, and I report on Jimmy G being pretty mediocre. You know what I mean? Garcia can come at me and attack me, and I deserve it from his perspective. Now, I might attack him back and say, Garcia, I may not have played in the NFL, but bro, I've been reporting on NFL stuff for over 2 decades as a professional analyst on CBS and NBC Sports Radio for 18 straight years, doing the Red Zone with Russ Bliss, my boy. We've been dropping NFL content for 18 years. I would have a rebuttal to him and say, I can talk about it. I may not be able to talk about it the exact way you do, and you're going to have a lot of points that I won't understand, and I can understand. But Jeff Garcia would have every right to attack me and say the same things and say, bro, Smitty, you have no business talking about Jeff Garcia, or Jeff Garcia could say, Smitty, you have no business talking about Jimmy G the way you do on your show when you say he's mediocre, when you've never played in the NFL, bro. He has every right to say that to me, as he has every right to say that to another reporter, regardless of gender. And I know people want to connect the dots and say, but if he could have said it to this male reporter that said it before. He didn't. Okay, I can't help that. I can't also connect dots that aren't there and try and assume for the worst that Jeff Garcia wouldn't have called out a male reporter in that setting, in that situation, at that time. So that's my stance on it. If anybody's going to try and draw conclusions that I'm not pro this or pro that off of that stance, that's their own fault. Because I'm literally saying right here, I am 100% for equality and nobody trying to hold anybody back. But I'm also not in the business of drawing conclusions for people's actions and thoughts that literally have so much gray area. You are reaching when you're trying to assume what Jeff Garcia exactly was saying. Because Jeff Garcia was upset. Jeff Garcia was mad at a reporter, in my mind, not a female, a reporter, because she was ripping on Jimmy G, who I rip on all the time, and I agree with her stance. But Jimmy Garcia comes at me, I would go at him back, and I'd say, I may not play quarterback in the NFL, bro, but I've been doing this a long time. And if that's not acceptable to you, if my analysis isn't good enough and up to par for you, that's fine, Jeff Garcia. Jeff Garcia could say that to me, and it wouldn't offend me. And I think to go to defenses for people saying it's because of this, I think it becomes a mess. We live in a world now where everybody is scared to say everything to anybody. What a crap show on the Brady story exactly. Baytown says Kyle goes from play calling wizard to being a safe play caller by not going on 4th and 1s. Time management and going goes out the window. It's just confusing as hell. Yeah, Shanahan is an amazing play caller. His scheme is phenomenal, and I didn't give him enough credit when I was saying, I admit, I said Shanahan is on the hot seat and may need to go. I said it. It is what it is. And I think I had every right to kind of go there. Maybe I was a little premature on it happening mid-season. Like maybe I should have said, "We'll let the season play out," and then he needed to make the call. If he can make a comeback, then Shanahan earned his way back into the good graces of everybody. That was a better stance. I admit that was wrong for me. But Shanahan still has made horrible personnel decisions, from passing on opportunities to get Deshaun Watson, to get Patrick Mahomes, to acquire Tom Brady, back to back, complete 100% whiffs at the personnel, specifically quarterback position, just completely botched one after the other. And I still stand by that he botched not putting Trey Lance in. Just because there's $100 sitting on the ground doesn't mean that there isn't $200 sitting on the ground over there. I am tired of people saying because the Niners are where they are that Jimmy's better than Trey. Like, you have an argument to make that, like, you didn't want to do anything, make any moves until next year. Fine, I understand that. But I'm telling you my perspective, my evaluation of Jimmy G versus Trey Lance, and I've seen them both on the field. I've seen them both start games. I'm sorry, but I have data. I have game film. I have a lot to go on. Trey Lance gives the Niners a better chance to win every single minute he's on the field versus every single minute Jimmy G's on the field. You can argue if you want. You can tell me I'm crazy. I don't really care. That is my stance. That's how I feel. And no one can take it away from me. And unfortunately, you can't prove it if you think I'm wrong, and I can't prove it if I think I'm right. We just can't. I think we'll have a little taste of who's right or wrong if Shanahan starts him in 2022. And I mean him, I mean Trey Lance, because Jimmy G, he might start him. He might retain Jimmy G, extend him, and start Jimmy G in 2022 week 1, which is going to infuriate me and infuriate a lot of people. But I myself believe Trey Lance starting right now gives the Niners a better chance to win. He's magical. And I don't want to hear he's not ready. You say he's not ready in my chat, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. Because who's ready until they're shoved into a lineup? And this man sitting on screen, and don't tell me I can't compare Tom Brady to Trey Lance, because I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying people rise up like Tom Brady, get shoved into a game, and start producing. It happens in the right situations, and this is a right situation because you have a player in Trey Lance that I have earmarked for goodness. I've identified as an amazing talent, not a good quarterback. This guy is going to be a top 5 to 7 quarterback in 2022 as a sophomore. He will be a top 5 to 7 fantasy football quarterback in his sophomore season if Shanahan would just put him in the game. If Shanahan puts him in, starts this guy, he will start seeing his evolution and development. This team will cater to him. It'll carry him. If someone says Trey Lance is not ready, they're talking about Trey Lance as if he's not on the San Francisco 49er roster, because he will be ready. He will be good enough. He will be so good in that offense, he won't need to be ready. He will be ready, but he doesn't even need to be ready. If anybody thinks that Trey Lance right now is not ready, then what does that make Jimmy G? Trey Lance's not ready status and level of play is far above Jimmy G's current level of play. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Then why do you hold your breath every time Jimmy G drops back to pass a football? Why is Jimmy G's stats awful in the playoffs right now? Why is Jimmy G, we can't let Jimmy G throw too much, is the consensus everybody has. If Trey Lance were in there, you wouldn't be afraid of Trey Lance. If Trey Lance were in there, he could scramble on a 40-yard touchdown run at any moment when he drops back to throw the football. When Trey Lance steps back to throw the football, you have options, but you also have the ability that if he isn't going to throw, in a track record of being accurate, deciding when to do this, 28 touchdowns to 0 INTs in college, 28 touchdowns to 0 INTs. This man drops back, doesn't see it. Very good decision maker with that. Doesn't see what he needs to do. Isn't there. The plays aren't there. There's no development. No one's open. I'm not going to force it. I've checked down. Nothing's going. Tuck it, run, 40-yard touchdown. When Jimmy G steps back to pass, he either has to throw it or throw it away or get sacked. Trey Lance can literally take it to the house anytime he touches the football. That's throwing the ball or that's running himself on a designed run. Trey Lance is magical. I hope Trey Lance gets to score a touchdown in this game. I'll tell you that. Bot Player 1 says, as a Niner fan, Trey Lance is hot garbage. Okay. Well, it's one opinion. I appreciate you have an opinion, and we're gonna have to disagree there, agree to disagree, but that's okay. Doesn't matter, bro. You didn't say anything about me being hot garbage. You didn't say anything about me being a garbage analyst or anything, so I can take those comments fine. People are respectful about their opinion. You can disagree all you want, and I actually respect you for it. I disagree with you 1,000%, and I think you're gonna come back and say, well, Trey Lance is pretty good, or you won't come back at all and say it because it's a hard thing to come back and say. But I'll tell you, if you come back and Trey Lance is hot garbage, come back to my live stream, tell me that you said that, and I will tell you, hey, you're right. I like Trey Lance and he's garbage. But that's not going to be the case, bro. You're going to come back, or you won't come back, and I will say, hey, what do you think of Trey Lance? Trey Lance, baby. Top 6 to 10 quarterback, top 5 to 10 quarterback, however you want to tag him. Rams will win. I'm going for the Niners. That's what Terry said. Kyle wants the Chiefs. Jimmy G would be been picked off by those accountants. I'm a Niner fan. I like Jimmy and I like Trey. Jimmy is a starter and I'm rocking with him, but Trey's ceiling is way higher. Obviously, it's going to be fun watching him grow. And that's, I think, the attitude of a true Niner fan. A true Niner fan is going to say, look, I'm going with whoever's in there. That's somebody that's separating fantasy and expectations and what you project to happen. If you were to say, okay, let me predict who's better. Okay, this is what we do with Trey. This is what we do, half of it, with Jimmy. Like that's a good fan. Senior Hyphy's just a fan. He's a fan first. I appreciate it. I respect it. He's at least honest. I like Trey, but Jimmy's the guy we're rocking with. I'm full go with Jimmy. I agree. Jimmy G just is very like he's mediocre, but he can win. The Niners are such a like they're just a dog, man. When they're in a fight, they fight like a dog. They're junkyard football. Like you're intimidated when this team, like the boombox, like everything about this team. Like I've been a part of this Niner show, the Quad Box, for 2 years now. And I cheer for the Niners. I never consider myself a Niner fan because I'm fantasy football first and foremost. I'm a Cardinal fan. Half my family's from Buffalo, half are from, we're here in Arizona. So, and the other half are from Indy. So I've a lot of ties to different teams because of that. That's one reason I love Josh Allen so much is I have ties to Buffalo. So I love Josh Allen. I love the Bills. But the Cardinals are my team. I'm born and raised here, so they're the team I will pick if we're ever talking about a battle and I got to choose sides. But I root for the Niners. I love what the Niners represent. I am fantasy football oriented. This team is loaded with fantasy football talent. I'm on a Niner show. I've got a lot of Niner friends. I love supporting my friends. I love watching them win when we can't win. The Cardinals can't win. The Niners win. I'm happy. I'm happy for all my people, all my followers. I got a lot of Niner followers, and I just love watching this team play. Like the way they walk out of the locker room with the boom box, and they're just intimidating. Like Jimmy G's 7 feet tall on this team when he's really only 6 feet tall. Like that's what the Niners do for him, and I've come to accept that. And I've come to accept that Jimmy G, they can win with Jimmy G. They can win with Jimmy G. Could they win bigger with Trey? Yeah, and I try and get that point across in the Quad Box and to everybody that's a Niner follower, and I try and be respectful about the conversation because the Niners can win with Jimmy G. The Niners are proving it. They're dogs. They're a dog fighting team. This team goes out there and they just abuse you. Like it's so amazing to watch this team. It's magical. They're one of 4 teams left, and they started out 3-5. There's no playoff hope for them. Even on the Quad Box, we talked about it. The Niners should not have made the playoffs. They did. It's magical. Debo's carrying this team, and they can win with Jimmy G. They would blow people out with Trey Lance. And that's how I feel. And I just don't care. Like, I appreciate everybody's opinion, but that's how I feel. And no one's changing that opinion. I don't care at all. That's just how I feel. I predict Akers has a costly fumble contributing to a 49er win. I do believe, I've said it on the quad box, I think the Niners either pick six in the beginning of the game and it turns the game into a Niner fest, or there's a pick six at the end of the game to cost the Rams the win. Whether it's a walk-off or not, I don't know. But I think a pick six does happen at some point, and this is what changes the game or wins the game. Could be a fumble recovery for a touchdown as well. But Akers played like crap. Akers fumbled the ball twice. Akers averaged 2-point-something yards per carry on like 20 carries. He looked like crap. Everybody's been talking about Akers like he's some second-round pick walking into 2020. And I get the excitement, and I put up a video saying, you know what, I need to acknowledge that he does look quick and quicker than he should for his condition coming out of an Achilles tear and rushing it like an irresponsible player and coaching staff and team. All these people involved in this decision to put Akers on the field. It's selfish for the Rams. It's selfish for the coaching staff and the medical team. Who they obviously they're trained to know this, but for whatever reason, whether they're getting pushed into signing off on it by the team, I don't know. But to rush this man, who and it's got to be Akers has got to be held accountable too. Akers wants to come back earlier. Probably he's pushing for it the most, and he's reckless. He's doing exactly what I said he was going to do walking into his rookie year. I said he was going to be reckless with his body. Akers was my number 2 avoid running back for 2021 for a reason. Henry was 1. Akers was 2. I forget who 3 was. There was a lot of them that were avoids for me. Akers was number 2 high-risk player for me. The number 2 high-risk player walking into 2021. And I got ripped to shreds on a regular basis because of it. What's he do? How can you say this about him? Injuries are you can't predict injuries. Yes, you can. You can foresee the potential injury risk. You can't predict that he's going to tear his Achilles, but you can predict that this man has an injury risk. You can predict that the mileage is adding up on Derrick Henry. You can predict that the decline in fall is going to happen. Everybody faces it. Derrick Henry will have a very sharp decline at some point. Pre-Achilles tear, there was 0. Then that's why you gotta watch my show, bro. Because I broke it down. I broke it down all the time. 49er. There was a lot of reason to avoid Akers. He's reckless with his body. He was in college. He leads with his head. There's all kinds of reasons to avoid Akers. Akers is an injury risk. He's a walking injury risk, and he's proving it every single day that he goes onto the field. 6 months recovered from a torn Achilles injury. He's proving my point exactly right this very moment. Yeah, but I don't know if you were here when I talked about Akers, because I've outlined it, 49er. I've outlined it in tremendous detail. There's not zero risk to avoid Akers. That's why he was number 2, bro, on my avoid list. And I wasn't the only analyst out there that had identified him from an injury perspective. Saquon, there you go. Saquon, maybe Saquon was my number 1. I think Henry and Saquon were like tied for my 1. Akers might have been the 3. I guess if you had to rank them based on the content, based on the level of content that I dished out on Barkley, Henry, and Akers, who all disappointed and got hurt. You know, like I understand a lot of players got hurt. So, you know, you could throw darts essentially at the board in some cases, but my 3 most biggest avoid running backs for a lot of strategic reasons, not guesswork, not gut feeling. There was a lot that went into those breakdowns, and I talk about it in tremendous detail. So, Barkley, that writing was so on the wall with Barkley. Let's go over it. Barkley, coming off an ACL tear. He was late getting started. The guy barely did practice reps walking into week 1. He did it in shorts. He didn't even have full contact. He just walked straight into week 1, so far behind schedule. And I predict that we hear something about that. A setback. Is there a setback? Did Barkley suffer a setback that we didn't hear about? Why? Why didn't we hear about it? Why was Barkley one of the most physically fit players? He still, is one of the strongest lower body players in the NFL. And that's a very good positive for an ACL recovery because of the tight knee joint. The tight knee joint with the surrounding muscles around the knee and the tight quad is what gives your knee very, very tight fitting, even if the ACL tears. I bet you, if anybody in here watching tore their ACL, their knee would move like this. And they do that test with you. I've torn my ACL. I have a lot of knee experience. I have knee models. I have all kinds of knee and knee content. I'm not a doctor. I admit that. But I've been doing injury analysis for over 20 years. This knee, when you tear your ACL, a doctor will come in and do the, I forget the name of the test. He pulls on the knee, and literally you can see that the ACL is torn. Doctor comes in, tugs on the knee, and if you get a lot of movement, that means there's no ACL. There's an ACL in there, and they pull on the knee, you got a lot of tightness. A guy like Barkley, I bet you tearing his ACL, when they pulled on the knee, there was probably some massive tightness. Like, it was probably hard to tell he even tore his ACL, other than the swelling and the pain, obviously. But I mean, from a tightness perspective, because this guy's knee is like just a rock solid amount of muscle just wrapped around that knee. Why was Barkley delayed? Why did Barkley have such a bad recovery? Setback. There's probably a setback we're going to hear about later that no one tells you about because news is not reported the same way as it used to be. We don't hear anything anymore. We're in the dark a lot of the time. We're left to speculate. I'm left to tell you what I think of Cam Akers because we're not hearing all the right information. I'm left to tell you what I think of Barkley because I got to decipher and try and predict what's really happening because we don't hear all the right information. I've got to look at someone like Derrick Henry and say, guys, he's going to break. He's going to break. 2,000-yard season, 420 carries, 300 and something the year prior. He's going to break. He's going to break. There's no way. And walking into 2022, Derrick Henry's going to break if he hasn't already slowed down and lost a step. It was one game. Titans, one and done. We didn't get to see Henry really come back to form at all. We don't know what we're dealing with. We're going to see him working out with weights and chains and all that. We won't know what we're dealing with Henry. We might see him in a preseason game or two, potentially before a draft maybe, but we won't know all offseason long. Dynasty startups, early dynasty drafts, best ball drafts, everybody's going to be drafting Derrick Henry blindly. The last we saw him, people are going to make excuses, and rightly so. I understand if you want to. It makes sense. Derrick Henry wasn't quite up to speed. Can't judge him for that one game back, but he didn't look the part. Derrick Henry didn't look ultra quick. I'm not saying Derrick Henry can't be the running back one for 6 straight weeks in weeks 1 through 6 of 2022. He could. And that's why I say if you want to draft him in the top 5 overall, I could get behind it, but you have to trade this man. You have to trade this man before week 6, or I can't help you. Because he's not going to make it 17 weeks with the workload he's had in his career. This guy's been overused, overworked. It's not going to happen. 49er, I get what you're saying, but that's my whole point, bro. Is what are we going to find out that was hidden from us? You're not told about anything. 49er, you can't sit here and say that he didn't have a second surgery or he didn't have a setback because you don't know. You didn't know Mike Williams didn't have surgery, bro. No one knew. So let's not pretend that we have information like we used to. That's my point, is we will probably find out that Barkley suffered a setback. There's no other explanation for why Barkley wasn't ready for week 1. He tore his ACL very early. He had a little delay in the surgery. He had plenty of time. He should have recovered from his ACL quicker than Akers recovered from his Achilles. Let's even put it that way. And I avoid Akers in 2022 at his current asking price, unless Akers falls to like 4th round material, which he probably won't. So, I'll cheer for him. I hope he does well. But this guy rushed back. His odds of another lower leg injury are astronomically high. It doesn't even have to be an Achilles. The odds of a lower leg injury in 2022 is astronomically high. Coming off an Achilles, just plain and simple, coming off an Achilles that you're rushing back from, huge injury risk, huge. I'm okay with it because he does, and I've said this before, Akers does look better than I ever thought he could because we have no data to go on. There are no young players tearing their Achilles that have their job waiting for them. Therefore, you have to give Akers some credit and benefit of the doubt in saying we don't have any data to look at of a young player tearing his Achilles and having his job waiting for him. Therefore, Akers, I need to release some slack on Akers. I need to say, hey, don't let your bias get involved, Smitty, based on the past because there's nothing to quantify or look at this specific scenario. I give Akers that, and I did that in my breakdown on Akers, but I still think the risk is so huge from him rushing back, and now they got another game where he gets to play. Why do you think Akers fumbled twice in this game? Why do you think Akers averaged 2 yards per carry? He's got a lot to worry about trying to stay healthy, trust his Achilles, trust his cutting. It's a lot to process, a lot to take into account. That's probably why he wasn't focused on ball security and things like that. No Rodgers to Indy. It's okay. You can disagree, Kyle. It's all about being respectful, and bro, you can disagree all you want. I appreciate your stance. ACL is like Tommy John. It takes a full year to get healthy, but Saquon really shredded his knee up, MCL, and the meniscus damage as well. It's true, but it's really hard to come back that 1 year as a running back. We can't even use Adrian Peterson's example. You just can't, because you literally, especially can't now, because you had the most likely prototypical candidate to replicate what AP did, given the lower body strength that Saquon had. There was a setback. There was something that happened to Saquon, and we'll find out later. Indy gave up a first rounder for Wentz. They've got to stick with them. That's partially true. I think some teams will backtrack if the right opportunity is sitting in front of them. The Cardinals did that. New coaching staff, but Josh Rosen was taken in the first round. What was Rosen? Top 5 pick? Josh Rosen? Was he 2 or 1 or 3? I forget what pick Josh Rosen was for the Cardinals. We took him in a top. He was a top 10 for sure, but I want to say it was like top 5. Next year, we drafted Kyler Murray before we even traded Josh Rosen. So I do give this Cardinals coaching staff that credit for making that ballsy decision and not using what other people think or what people have done in the past or what you're supposed to do, as your blueprint. They did it. Was it 7? Josh Rosen 10th? I forget where it was. Akers has too many red flags. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody, Roger. I'm only going to get so far. That a lot of it's because a lot of the people watching are either Akers, that are pushing back on it, which is fine. They're Akers dynasty owners, or they're heavily invested in acquiring them for, I don't know. Maybe they just love the comeback story too. A lot of people that draft Akers are the same people that will draft Barkley. Or Akers. People that draft Akers will definitely give Henry a try at 3 or 2 overall. And that's fine. That's fine. And there's comeback stories all the time. And could Akers deliver? Could Akers avoid this potential high injury risk that I'm telling you about? Absolutely. Like if Akers, here's the funny thing I think about my stance that people don't really understand what I'm saying, is if Akers comes out and plays well all year and never gets hurt, people are going to think that I feel wrong. And I don't feel wrong. I don't feel wrong at all with that stance because it's an odds game. Am I saying Akers has 0% chance of staying healthy and playing 17 games next year? No, he could. There's you roll a dice. You could maybe roll a 1, or you're gonna roll a 6, or you could roll a 4 or a 3, or there's a certain percentage. With Akers, it's an odds game. The odds of him staying healthy are lower than they are for another player around his ADP by a significant amount. And if you push back on that, you're really just trying to support him at that point, because the statistics are in the argument. Coming off of an Achilles tear, you have a high probability of another pretty serious leg injury coming off an Achilles tear. That's just the way it is. And that's not a player rushing back 5 to 6 months. He's trying to come back 5 months from surgery recklessly. His style of play, which is reckless, leading with the head. Other defenders making head-to-head contact. You saw it in the game, in the playoff game. He's a reckless guy with his body, which is, I admire his heart and his willingness to get the extra yard. But with players like that, like Kittle, players like a lot of players that are reckless with their body, Kittle, Gronk, those are tight ends, I know, but these are players that put themselves in positions to get those extra yards. They hang themselves up to get leveled. They lead with their head. Akers led with his head all of college. You can watch the film. Literally lowers his head and would drive it into linebackers. It's reckless abandonment. And it's admirable at times, very admirable, that he's willing to sacrifice himself, but that's what he's doing, sacrificing himself. How healthy can he stay? When you come back 6 months, unnecessarily come back 6 months, trying to come back 5 months after Achilles surgery, the worst injury you could possibly have other than like something that you wouldn't really get, like broken hip wall or something like that. Achilles is far worse than an ACL tear. Far worse. Far harder to come back from, usually a year or more. Sometimes it's like 3 years because you have that high likelihood of a second lower body injury that doesn't always relate to the Achilles. It's compensation. There's a lot of reasons, alignment of the body issues that result in that. Even ACL tears, coming off an ACL tear, you oftentimes have a hamstring issue. Look at Dalvin Cook. ACL tear, his year back after that, bad year. Bust year for Dalvin Cook coming off of the year after the ACL tear. It's just common. ACL tears do that. Achilles tears are even more so worrisome from that perspective. Okay, enough about Akers. I've got a whole video on why I support all of you for believing in him. And I do reel back some of my doubt for you. And I stand behind that. Like 4th round, 5th round. I'm not saying avoid him at all costs. I'm saying Akers has this much risk. It's a lot. It's not little. It's a lot. And you need to make sure the ADP accounts for that risk and bakes it in. Otherwise, you're running a huge risk of having a guy that you're drafting way too high that's going to drop the ball for you. No pun intended. Let's see here. I know you don't think much of the NFL's medical staff, but they wouldn't let Akers come back unless he was fully ready to turn. Not true, Rubio. I appreciate your take, but that's not accurate. There are staffs all the time that are reckless. There's a little bit of a team. There's a lot of team can control, but there's also a lot that's up to players, and there's a lot of politics involved too. There's a lot of things, a lot of coaching pressures. Like, just because a coach says to go do something doesn't mean it's going to be healthy for the player, bro. The NFL's been notorious for covering up a lot of concussion stuff for years, bro, for decades. Like, this is not accurate. I appreciate your stance, but it's there are so many situations where players are put at risk and they don't need to be. And I'm not saying I believe anything AB says or whatever, but to the point that coaches are urging people to get back on the field, and there's injections that people get. There's all kinds of pressures for players to play hurt. So absolutely, you could talk to NFL players, and I have, that say that it is very, very much players putting themselves on the line and their health and their future for coaches and the urgings of the coaching staff to get on the field. Like, that is commonplace. Not to mention all the disconnect between players and the medical staff all the time. Look at Mike Thomas. Look how off everybody was on that situation. The medical team didn't even know what was going on with Mike Thomas in the offseason. There's a lot of disconnect and a lot of ways that these things fall apart. Appreciate the take, and in some ways you're correct. There will be some safeguards in place. I'm sure he passed those things, but that doesn't mean he's out of the woods. There's no time frame. There's no example that anybody would have to say that this is going to be good for him to go out there and explode as a running back at the running back position. The change of direction, the forced change of direction, unexpected change of direction, the 300-pound lineman jumping on your back and the force that you can't test and read. There's no way to know that this wouldn't be disastrous, so it's reckless to throw him out there 5 to 6 months, in my opinion. I appreciate you again. Same as when you believe in a game time decision, the coaches and medical staff know days before the game if the player will be able to play. It's not decades ago, it's 2022. Take a lap. Rubio, you can think what you want, bro, but I'm telling you right now, there's disconnect there that you're, I think, not seeing as far as coaching staff and medical staff putting players in vulnerable positions. Yeah, it's 2022. We're living in a different world, but there's still a whole lot, bro, that goes on that shouldn't go on in locker rooms, with coaching staff, with injections, with people being forced to go back on the field. Like, give me a break, bro. I talk to pro athletes about it in interviews that they're sent back on the field when they don't want to go back on the field. Like this, believe me. This isn't like everybody's doing the right thing in the NFL all the time. Hit the like button. Appreciate you, Terry. It's about money as well. I mean, that's true. I'm not saying any of AB stuff can be taken seriously, but I'm sure some of it is rooted in some truth too. Look at Arians and how he's talked about in some circles. Look at him hitting people on the helmet. Like, you're not telling me Arians isn't telling players to get back on the field. Some of that was probably true, but I think AB embellished the hell out of it. No question about it. But there is so much that goes on that people don't see. And it's funny. It's funny how so many people don't know to the degree, like some of the stuff I hear, like a lot of it's like a player telling me, and I can't just repeat it, bro. Some of the stuff I hear, it would shock you that players endure at the NFL level. Would shock you, absolutely shock you. AB to the Ravens, I don't know, bro. Part of me wonders if Arians smacking helmets around is going to open the door to people believing his story more, and then he gets a shot. But if he goes to the Ravens, he's going to treat the Ravens exactly like he's treated every other team. Whoever signs AB will make their own bed. Because he'll be at another team, yet another team that he bounces from in a very bad fashion. The guy's manipulated his way out of every single situation he's been in. He's lied. He's manipulated. And any team that buys into him. And the Ravens wouldn't make... What's he going to get out of the Ravens? Lamar Jackson's not going to make him into a consistent wide receiver. Lamar Jackson is an adequate passer that's an excellent runner. He's not making anybody into a consistent wide receiver one. AB's going to be crying about targets and being used, and he'll be out of there before season. And he was lucky to get through the amount of time he did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, bro. Yeah, AB, I hope not. Yeah, AB's trying to, like media said, trying to visit every team. He's trying to take a photo in every locker room. Trying to burn his feet off in every single facility. Trying to wear that Pop Warner helmet everywhere, in every single locker room. Remember the Pop Warner helmet? AB. Oh my God. There's no way Harbaugh brings an AB. I agree. I think all it takes is one team though. Lamar got me the chip in 2019 though. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, he was magical at a time, and he can be magical. Just I don't feel like it's going to be a full season anymore. At the cost, I don't like it. But trust your gut if you like Lamar. I mean, you could certainly put together, again, everything's an odds game. Like, people need to understand that. Everything's an odds game. Everything. is there a certain odds percentage that Lamar could play 17 electric games? Yeah, but the odds are very, very low for that. Because he'd have to stay healthy. He runs a lot. He'd have to be consistent. He's not consistent. The team would have to step up and be consistent for him and not hold him back. A lot of variables, a lot of red flags to worry about. To me, I don't see a world where right now, the way that the Ravens are built, where they're going to give Lamar enough support to get him producing like that. Also, Chad, I was kidding about Rodgers. He for sure is a Hall of Fame. Media, don't try and backtrack that, bro. You went on Instagram getting blasted as can be. Media, you can't reel that one back in, bro. Media. Come on, bro. You were arguing. Not only were you arguing till your heart was content on my last YouTube show, but you argued with me on Instagram until we put you in your place, and we had literally 3 people come on and say, bro. Media. It cracked me up, bro. Do I think Lamar gets a fat stack this year? I don't know. I think Lamar just doesn't smell like 17 games of success to me. I just feel like he's gonna. Media, that was great. Me trying to, bro. We blasted you on Instagram about that. Like you were getting hit left and right on it. I understand. Look, you were in a place where you were mad at Aaron Rodgers. Why don't you admit that? Admit that. I am the media, bro. I will backtrack like a real media. Okay, at least you're admitting that you were thinking more about an A-Rod. You're angry at A-Rod. So that's a good one, media. I like that. Media. By the way, I would like to announce that I was joking. I need to use that line, media. That's a pretty good line. That's great, media. You did give me a good laugh tonight, I'll tell you that. Who had a great year this year that you have a feeling might drop off next year? That's a great question. It's a tough question because you're always ruffling feathers, you know what I mean? Everybody's got an opinion. I think everybody should be able to have an opinion. Even the Acres is going to blow up for 17 straight games. That's a great opinion to have. I'm okay with people having respectful opinions that disagree with anybody else in the show. That's fine. I like it. I just ask people be respectful to everybody's take. You know what I mean? Sometimes I get a little heated and I might not feel like I'm towing that line, and I apologize if I ever come off that way. But sometimes I'm trying to deliver content, and when I'm reading comments and you're trying to deliver your take and you see this or that, sometimes you get derailed and you sidetrack, and it is what it is. I would probably say a player that did well that I would be worried about not repeating. What's crazy, though, is so many players did horrible last year. It's more of like what players are going to bounce back year. It's like hard to identify people that did good all year. Quarterbacks, I don't see anybody that I want to call out, other than like Tom Brady, like would be a potential, situation. Because if like he came back, let's say, because obviously if he retired, he wouldn't. But if he came back, let's say he led the league in a lot of categories, and I could see him dropping off a little. So Tom Brady would be the only quarterback. I love Allen. I love Mahomes. I love Burrow. I love Herbert. I think Kyler's going to be valued pretty well. Lance is going to blow up. Lamar didn't have a great year overall. Like he had good portions of it, but no one's going to overvalue him. A-Rod, everybody's down on. Like, yeah, so I mean, there's no quarterbacks like in that top 10 other than, I doubt Lamar a lot more than I think most people do. If you want to just have a player I doubt there. As far as, like Nick Chubb, I worry about quite a bit. He didn't have like the biggest year ever, but I think Nick Chubb could drop off significantly. I'm not huge on that Browns offense and what they're doing. I think the Browns could have another struggling year. You guys know I'm not high on Barkley, but he didn't have a good year, so you can't use him. Fournette, I guess, would be one player that had a really good year that I struggled to get behind fully at the current asking price. I worry a little bit about Cook, even though I'm mock drafting him. I tell you I'll secure Madison and feel comfortable, but then the next minute I'll feel a little worrisome about it. Like Cook, I feel like is on that verge, and he's got the off the field issues that aren't totally like in the rear view. I worry about Cook quite a bit. Kamara, we all worry about Kamara. I like Mixon. I like Mixon more than I did last year. Obviously, I was worried about Mixon, and it took him a little while, but like he got going. He looked phenomenal. He finished really good. Like Mixon, I worry about like, does he return to being disappointing or does he stay high? I think the offense is so good that I want to believe in him for one more year. So I'm not going to include Mixon in that group, even though some might think I would. Chubb, I would. Chubb, I include in the worry category. Debo, I'm not worried about Debo. I love Debo. I think Debo's a great value. People are discounting Debo way too much. He's going in the 12 to 15 range in mock drafts. He's disrespectful to the guy considering what Debo's doing. So I don't think he's one of those guys. God, so many players just disappointed. I'm going down the list, and it's like disappointment. There's not a bunch of people that blew up. Like Godwin, I don't think's coming back from an ACL tear and having a good season, changing teams. I think people are out of their mind. Mark Andrews, I worry about if you want a tight end. I'm not saying he'll bust, but I worry about him. I worry about his situation. Hollywood Brown, massive breakout year. He could. Kyler is good for half a season. It all came down to Hopkins being out, bro. He would have continued to play well. You got to understand, that's one of the best. Even if he isn't the best fantasy wide receiver, Hopkins is regarded still as one of the toughest wide receivers in the NFL to guard. The Cardinals don't use him enough. That's what holds him back, and he got hurt, but I think Hopkins will be a pretty good value in 2022. I'm on board for one more year. I don't think Hopkins' talent dropped off. Like people are, I think, off the rocker. You're gonna see a video drop from me in a little bit on Hopkins. He's a great value grab, great for best balls. His value so low. Hopkins didn't fall off. He got hurt. Doubting Hopkins staying healthy, that's a good argument. If you want to argue that, I get it. Or usage and injury, two things to worry about. I'm going to stay away from Hopkins. I can get behind that for you. Like, that's not a take a lap offense. But to say he's dropped off, he's washed, he's done, like these comments people have when you start talking about him saying Hopkins is trash, Hopkins is done. Like, that's a very narrow-minded perspective. Will he stay healthy? I can understand that specific stance. Or they don't throw to Hopkins enough. That is a very, very specific stance that I can at least understand and respect. I like Kyler a lot, though, with Hopkins. That's a huge blow, bro. That's like taking away Adams from Aaron Rodgers and literally judging Aaron Rodgers. It's like taking away Jamar Chase from Burrow and then judging Burrow. Burrow would still be very good, but Kyler could still score. And he was hurt. He was also hurt. He hurt the ankle. He was never fully healthy on that. Terry with the super chat. Thoughts on Swift? Good question, Terry. I appreciate that super chat. Did I miss another super chat earlier? I don't know if I did. If I did, I'm very, very sorry. Great question, bro. I like Swift more this year than I did last year, and I love when people drop in the comments because I had a video where I think it was the top 6 running back video where I talked up Swift a little bit. I forget if that was the video. But I got a couple comments and DMs where people go, glad to see you're finally on board the Swift train. And that's not the case. The case was there was a reason to doubt him. He finished like in the 15 to 16, 17 running back range last year, which didn't warrant the early ADP value that I was telling people to stay away from. He was getting drafted sometimes at the first and second round turn, 12, 13, 14 early on in January, February, March. Then Swift fell into the late second round, and then he'd go in the third sometimes, he'd go in the second, and he barely earned that top 15 running back value, by the end of the year. So he had some ups and downs. He got hurt. That was part of the risk. His coaching staff didn't fully buy into him being the full-time guy. They called Jamal Williams the 1A back, and they called him the 1B back. There was a lot of reasons to doubt Swift, and for good reasons. They were good reasons, and they turned out to be a lot of the big concerns. Walking into 2022, like in Swift in 2022, doubting Swift's situation and Swift's sum total in 2021, they're totally different seasons, and they have nothing to do with each other in one sense. Swift is not having his coaching staff say, hey, he's our 1B back. We like Jamal Williams better. He's going to enter as the number 1 back. He's going to enter being workhorse-ish and potentially top 10 running back. He was top 15 last year, which warranted like the 3-4 round pick range, third or fourth drafted player value. Yeah, I mean, I was okay with that, but I didn't like Swift at 12, 13, and 14, whereas a lot of my negative Swift commentary came into effect when he was like a 12, 13, 14 overall pick, and he didn't warrant that. He proved that. So I like Swift more this year. I could get behind Swift in the late second round to the early third. That's not me changing my mind, which is okay too. You should be able to change your mind on players and not feel like embarrassed because you feel differently from year to year. Not saying you're saying that, Terry. I'm just saying in general, but Swift is a curious case of one year looking very different than another. It's a lot of his coaching driven. So I do like him this year. Rams and 49ers NFC Championship again next year. Potentially, bro. I mean, if Tom Brady does retire, the NFC is light. A-Rod, if A-Rod's gone, if Brady's gone, the Niners could be the team to beat in the NFC walking into 2022. It's crazy to think about. Trey Lance led Niners. I mean, how could you not be excited about what the Niners could do in the NFC going forward? This is crazy. If Brady does retire and A-Rod's not in the NFC, and there's very, very good reason to think that the Packers will not trade him to an NFC team. There's a lot of good reason to believe that they're going to not only pick an AFC team, but they're going to send him out west, which is why Denver makes a whole lot of sense, is because not only are they west, they're also not going to be in a situation where it's an NFC team that they're worried about sending Aaron Rodgers to, like he's going to the AFC. They want to send him to the potentially like the Broncos, or I don't know. There are other locations, but that's why Denver sounds so appealing, because Denver wants him. Denver's been itching for a quarterback, and they've been botching it every year. Elway's done a horrible job trying to get the right quarterback in. They keep playing musical chairs at quarterback, and they keep getting these makeshift quarterbacks. Locke was so easy to see that he wasn't it from the beginning. There were so many Locke supporters. He looked like garbage to me. And here you have Aaron Rodgers available. The Broncos probably willing to overpay. And as I said earlier, even if you know that the Packers are telegraphing that they want to trade, it's not going to necessarily dumb down the value, because the market should be hot for Aaron Rodgers. There should be multiple teams willing to do a bidding war, to a sense that it gets it back to a really good value for Green Bay that they can't refuse. And he takes up like 25. I think A-Rod takes up like 25% of the cap. Green Bay's in trouble money-wise. They got to get rid of him. They got to get something for him too now, because if he threatens to retire, they get nothing. They know that. They're going to get something for A-Rod. Debo is easy draft in the second round. Easy, bro. He's got wide receiver. He's got first round potential. If you're getting Debo in the second round, bro, it's crazy. Thank you, Terry. Terry says check out sleeperu.com. Get on over to sleeperu.com and get your lifetime membership, get your text advice, get your lifetime membership so you never pay for content again, and get 2 years. If you get the top level lifetime membership, you get 2 years of text advice. Absolutely phenomenal. We get text back and forth your questions and dilemmas. Kyler gets better going into sophomore. I don't know what that means. Kyler gets better going into sophomore. Watson, don't forget about Watson. I mean, yeah, definitely he's a player to talk about, but there's still a whole lot of question marks around his situation, though. So teams are going to be very, very, like, someone's going to bite. I believe someone's going to bite. The question is there something underhanded going on with the NFL too, where they're like, don't do this, we'll figure out a loophole or a way. The current limitations to the exempt list are that you cannot put a player on the exempt list for a civil situation. But what a lot of people don't understand about this dilemma, this situation that Watson's in, is it still has the potential for a criminal case to be opened up, and the criminal side of this is waiting and pending on the civil side. So if the civil side doesn't go away, the criminal side could then proceed. And people need to understand that. And once it does, he will be removed and put on the commissioner exempt list the minute that criminal investigation is made a thing. And people need to understand that just because there's no criminal investigation yet, I've had attorneys come on and talk about this, and we've delved into it in amazing detail. A lot of people speak on this, and they don't really fully know the situation. But the civil side, the evidence for the criminal case resides in the civil situations. And if those 20 cases resolve, and if Watson's 20 cases, all of them are separate, mind you, resolve, and there's admission that Watson did nothing wrong, so they settle. Here's a check. Give me the affidavit. You signed that Watson did nothing wrong. That case is closed. 19 more to go. Here's your check. Please sign the affidavit that Watson did nothing wrong. This case is closed. That there's 18 more. There's 20 individual. They're not connected. They're consolidated for speed. They're not a class action. These cases are not connected. They're run by one attorney. The 20 or 20 or so that are involved in this doesn't mean that there aren't 4 or 5 other people that are going to come out of the woodwork, a couple months from now or something. The 20 people involved it's all run by one attorney. That probably means that they all do want to settle. That's the good news for Deshaun Watson believers and fans, is that there's a high likelihood, because I think about 95% of all civil litigation ends in a settlement, right? So there's a high likelihood in general that a settlement will happen for each one of these cases, but there's 20 of them. All it takes is one person to be like, I want right and wrong, admission of this or that. It's going to get complicated. 20 people agreeing on this. All it takes is one remaining pending case. 20 people forget that it's 20 cases. It's not one. And if even one remains open, that's bad for business. The NFL wants nothing to do with this. They can't put him on the exempt list in theory right now. We don't know the legal loopholes in that amendment to all of those rules as far as what the league can do with the exempt list. The exempt list used to be where the commissioner could do whatever he wanted. He could say, I don't like this, put him on the exempt list. Boom. That's the way it used to be. But there was bargaining that happened that made it so that the exempt list can only be for criminal, can't be for civil. But who knows what loopholes there. Watson's sponsors already dropped them. Some big ones did. And so you got to think that the NFL sponsors are worried about this, and the NFL's worried about that. It's all about money. I'm not saying right or wrong. No one's arguing that Watson's guilty here. No one's arguing that he's innocent. That's a whole different thing. But it's really hard to imagine a team giving up 2 or 3 first rounders for Deshaun Watson when they don't really know what the future holds for him. He could potentially have a criminal investigation open up and be put on the exempt list. And that team that surrendered 3 first-rounders is out. Completely out. So be a little careful buying Watson. The same people that say he will play in 2022 are the same people that came at my neck, Rubio. Like, they came at me hard and said, he's playing 2021, bro. He's innocent. He's playing 2021. You hear me, Smitty? He's innocent. He's playing 2021. And I'm like, chill, Bob. I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying he's guilty or innocent. I'm not taking a stance on that. I'm trying to tell you that the league won't have it, or the Texans won't have it. And guess what? The Texans made a decision to not play him. Was the NFL involved at all in that? Everybody seems to think everything's on the up and up. We live in a different world than that. If anybody thinks that the commissioner didn't have phone calls and sway, and what does he take away? What powers does he have? How could he make an organization like the Texans' life miserable? How much was it? And this is speculation. I'm admitting that, but how much of it was the owner having it out for Watson, which a lot of people agree is the situation. This owner has something against Deshaun Watson. He'd rather let the whole house burn down than to let Watson go elsewhere. It's crazy when you look at all the things that people are writing about this owner versus Watson and what's been going on, and all the connections involved with the attorney and some neighbor. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But you got to ask yourself, if the Texans sat him all year and didn't have to, did they really have the ability to do what they want with the situation? Or was it really just the owner out to get Watson? We don't know. No one truly knows. But Watson to Denver, let's say all 20 cases settled. Watson to Denver, it would be fun. Watson to Indy would be fun. Watson to Pittsburgh. Watson to Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers to Tampa Bay. Watson to Green Bay. Not they can't afford that, but I'm just trying to come up with I mean, imagine Watson to a franchise tag Devontae Adams. They can't afford it. There are money issues. There's a reason that the Packers are probably going to trade Aaron Rodgers, is because they're in serious money issues, and there's a potential risk that they don't tag Adams at all. You know what I mean? Because they might be in this rebuild mode, which is why Aaron Rodgers says, I'm not a part of a rebuild. The Packers say, we're not rebuilding. Yeah, you are. You drafted Jordan Love. And spat in the face of Aaron Rodgers, and we had Danny Woodhead on, and Danny Woodhead said the same thing, literally spitting in the face of Aaron Rodgers, not having a conversation with him. Aaron Rodgers watching the draft like a normal civilian, and he sees his replacement drafted. Like, they've been in rebuild mode this entire time. A-Rod's been wanting out this entire time. A-Rod restructured his deal so that there was only 1 year left. Some of that could have been strategy that we don't know the inner workings of, that allow Aaron Rodgers to have some power in renegotiating a contract. You know what I mean? Like, if he would have just said, let me out of my deal, he's got no protection. So right now, he can force a trade. He could have got verbal commitments that I will retire if you don't trade me. Take the year off. Let me have 1 year left on my contract, so that I have the money guarantees and the ability to be able to negotiate with my new team a deal or a restructuring, whatever, gives me the power to look like an attractive, trading piece. And because of that, maybe they shake hands and they go back, the Packers go back on their word, then he steps away. And he doesn't care. He's carefree. He's at a point where he almost retired last year. I don't think he would have, but he was at a point where he almost retired because he didn't want to play in Green Bay. He sucked it up for 1 more year to put himself in this position. And if the Packers back out on what was probably a under-the-table handshake that we will trade you, he said, if you don't, I will retire. You will get 0. So we will negotiate something that works for both of us, and if it doesn't work out, I'll walk away. I firmly believe that's how it played out in Aaron Rodgers' situation to some degree, maybe give or take some of the things that I'm saying, but I think it probably played out like that. And he's already talking about, there's a lot of people reporting on, and who knows how much of it is really coming from his mouth or being pried from him on a McAfee show, but where he's like, he'd love to take MVS with him and Adams with him wherever he goes. Like Brady, Gronk, and Terrell Owens to the Broncos confirmed. That'd be crazy. I love Watson in Indy, but I doubt it. Watson would be great in Indy. Yeah, that's we've known about that. We've been talking about that. There's no news on Brady. We've been saying that the whole show. His dad and his agent said, "Hold your horses." Yes, Scott, they sure did. We're talking about it. Where is Michael Carter's ADP in redraft next year? I don't know if we have a good ADP. We didn't see him go in like the 5th or 6th round in our mock draft. So apparently people in our mocks haven't been drafting him. Maybe he went in the 5th round. I don't know. Somewhere around that range. It feels about right. I think putting him ahead of 4th or 4.5 to 5th round range seems awfully high. And there's a lot of people that love him this year. So I think he could climb into that area. Brady and Gronk to the broke. Guys, legit Broncos got new head coach. They just need to be a contender. I mean, there's this guy they brought in. What's his face? Well-liked coach in Green Bay by all the players. And I don't know. We haven't had full confirmation of what A-Rod thinks of him, but it sounds a lot like it could be positioning to bring A-Rod over. But, it could be also, a bonus or benefit for the Denver Broncos that it could lure A-Rod in, but we'll see. Nonsense and fiction is all I hear, says Beast Pro. Well, that's one take, pal. Still appreciate you. Yeah, Hackett. Hey, well liked. Like Hackett's well liked by all players, bro. They love him. I think A-Rod, I assume A-Rod doesn't have any beefs with him. I've never heard anything. Hackett's he's a good pull for Denver. Denver needs to do something. Denver needs to bring in, a Watson or an A-Rod. They have to do it. Jerry Jeudy to the moon. Javonte more so to the moon. Javante's already on a rocket ship heading for the moon right now, but his rocket ship would speed up 10 times faster and he'd get there immediately if A-Rod or Watson or Russell Wilson are brought into Denver. Brady to Indy and Rodgers to Denver. Brady ain't getting traded, bro. I don't think. There's a lot of moving parts to that. Brady comes back. It's to Tampa. You're not going to another team. What's up, Derek? I don't watch a lot of college. Well, Senior Hyphy, you're going to get all your college information from me, bro. I got all the rookie running backs and rankings up right now. Wide receivers are next, then quarterbacks, then tight ends. I'm going to head out. Smitty, let's go Niners. Appreciate you, media. Is Learn picking you up and bringing you to Phoenix, bro? Guys, I'll be live streaming at Lou Malnati's on Central and Camelback. So come hang out with me. If you're in Phoenix or Chandler or Tempe or anywhere in Arizona that's remotely close to Phoenix, come hang out with your boy Smitty. I'm giving away, raffling off some pizza, and it'll be good times. And if you can't make it, if you're not in Arizona or whatever, watch me. I'll be live streaming on YouTube during the Bengal Chief game. My reactions. I'm not live streaming the game, obviously, but you can chime in. We can talk about the game. I'll be at an event on a patio, live streaming. So everybody that's watching right now, please understand I will be live tomorrow during the pretty much the entire game, the Chiefs and Bengals game. I may break it up into 2 lives. I'm not quite sure, but I probably should be live the entire time. So if you didn't know that, make sure you check in with me tomorrow. Okay. So during the game, I better see all of you at some point check in with me. T-Bone says he thinks Brady's still going to retire because his family wants time with him, but he'll just push it back further because of this. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, T-Bone, you probably missed it. You could rewatch it, but I truly believe that when players think like this, it's temporary, bro. There's nothing that holds this into place. It's not cemented in. You know, it's like you want to, when you're a certain personality type and you have a certain kind of job and you go away or you spend enough time away, it's really hard, bro. It's really hard, T-Bone, to like change for other people, you know. And I think that a player that's done it for 22 years, man, this isn't 15 or 13 or 10 or 8, 22 years. He knows one life. And everything he says is Giselle hates it when I'm hit. He is saying some things about he wants to spend time with family, but I'm telling you, give him time, and these things pulling him away are going to seem a little bit like impatient to him. Like, you know what? Give me one more year. Like, if I want to go one more year or even 2 more years, I've done this for 22 years, and I'm going to always wonder, and I'm going to resent. And people do. You know, you try and say, hey, I would like to sit back and do this and that. He's done this for 22 years. He would go crazy. He may think right now because he lost, and there's such a stark difference between what he said weeks before when he said, I can't imagine retiring. I'm playing at such a high level to retiring. What happened in between? What happened in between those two very stark different statements? He had a brutal loss. He's down. I think he gets his motivation back up, and he comes back for at least one more year. But anything can happen. Anything can happen. What a Lou Malnati's in AZ. That's cool. Yeah, I think Arizona is the only other place Lou Malnati's is, or Chicago. They're one of the best pizza places in the world. I think. They're in Chicago, but they're in Arizona because Arizona has the most Chicago transplants. People from Chicago move to Arizona. People from all over cold weather move to Arizona. They love it because it's warm. But we have a lot of Chicago people here. A lot of Canadians here too as well. So Arizona has a lot of Chicago people. So they opened up a Lou Malnati's because they had the branding already done, the name recognition. People knew about it, and it blew up here. So I'll be live streaming. Join me on YouTube here during the Chief Bengal game. When you're watching a Chief Bengal game, I want you to say, hey, Smitty's live during the Chief Bengal game. I'm going to check him out. I lived in Chicago for years and moved back to Cali a couple years ago. Friends still send me Lou's for your birthday. Yeah. And they ship all over, so you can still win the gift card I'm giving away on Instagram on my Lou Malnati's post. Terry wants to fly to AZ. Yeah, that'd be funny. Fly to AZ for the pizza pie. I love pizza and cheese. Yeah, wait till you see tomorrow is when I live stream. It's absolutely phenomenal. On paper, the Cardinals should be the best NFL team. You know what? They were. They were for, not just on paper, they were for 7-8 games, you know. They were the best team in the league. We fell apart. I love how people don't give us our flowers or credit. I love when people say the Cardinals weren't the best team in the league. Like, that's disrespectful. The Cardinals were 100% the best team in the NFL. No one wanted to play us. We were scary. Our defense was top 5 in some ways that they played. I don't know statistically what we were the first 7 games, but we were electric. We were elite. We suffered injuries. Hopkins went down. We fell apart. We had some of our best players go down. You know, take Debo off the Niners. You guys do not win games. Okay? Like, same thing with Hopkins. Like, take Hopkins. Hopkins isn't playing as well as Debo was, but Hopkins was so vital to the success of Kyler Murray. It was the same kind of impact. You take Debo off of the Niners, it was equivalent to taking Hopkins off of the Cardinals roster because of what it did for Kyler. It disarmed Kyler. It not only took away one of the best weapons in the NFL at the wide receiver position, but it completely disarmed Kyler Murray. and he fell apart. So it was in some ways more devastating than anybody being pulled off of any roster. So I don't want to hear the Cardinals weren't the best team for a significant chunk of the season. They 100% were. Green Bay. Guys, if you missed Lou Molinati's, go to my Instagram, The Fantasy Football Show. I still have a post up. I'm deciding tomorrow on who the winner is during a random drawing. You can win a gift card, $25 gift card on my Lou Molinati's post on my Instagram. It's probably a couple posts back now. But people in the comments, you got to follow Lou's, follow me, comment down in the comments below on the post, and I'm giving away a $25 gift card, and those of you outside of Chicago and Arizona can still use that gift card because they ship. Brady and Smitty are the GOATs. Thank you, pal. All right, I'm out of here. We've been live for 2 hours. I can't believe it. I came on here to play some of the video that got taken down, and the Brady retirement video. I did not want that taken down, by the way. If anybody's looking for it, like, hey, where'd the video go? I did not delete it because I was ashamed of reporting that he retired. Everybody reported he retired. I deleted the video on accident because it looked like a duplicate scheduled live stream, and I deleted it, and I was so upset. It's still on Twitter. It's still on LinkedIn. So clearly I still want it to be up, and you can't reverse it, and I'm so upset. I've only deleted a video on accident twice. See you, Rubio. Appreciate you. I'm not in the NFT Top Shot yet. I just don't have time. Cardinals fell apart. I mean, it's all about, like I said, all about Hopkins, bro. Bad defense call, not gonna lie. All right, see you guys all tomorrow during the Bengals Chiefs game. I'll be live on YouTube. Appreciate all of you. Get on over to smitty1.com and Sleeper U, the letter U, Sleeper, the letter U.com. Consume all my content at really smitty1.com's got everything. Yeah, so go there now. Appreciate you. And subscribe to my second channel. You can view it if you're on my main YouTube page and you scroll to the bottom, you can see the clip channel. It's a clip version